Consuelo in here. La 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 la. Oh, come on, I can't add nobody. Hey, girl. All right, now we gotta add you. Yes. Hi, guys. Hey, I see
Hey,
you. We didn't even have any technical difficulty. That's a first for me.
I think it's because I was so scared of it not working.
Well, I'm still sitting up, I promise. My big old head got to get in there. Oh, goodness. See, it wasn't that hard. Normally, I promise you, I think we had to do it like 10 times last time for Eliza. It's always a pain in the butt to get in there. Hey. Hey, Eliza. Oh, my God. I'm trying to, like, sit down with my tall ass. All right. All right. Let me see. I can't see. I'm old. What do you got going on behind you, dude?
So I was actually thinking maybe I'll walk you through the new space so you can see what's going on.
Heck yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, so this was the graffiti I said I was hanging earlier.
Oh, very cool. And this is the new building that you're in right now, correct?
Yep. So it's our new space. We're leasing it, so it's ours, and I'm so happy to finally have like a home base now.
Oh my God, that's so exciting. All right. Hi, ladies. I'm trying to wave at you guys. Hey, Missy. Hey, Vero. Rubenith, 915. Phoenicia Fab, what up? Can you see the comments in there? Or can you see the people rolling through?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. I think we're on time, right? All right, you guys. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming in. So really, let me just explain what the Welding Women Syndicate is. What it is Eliza and I basically came to terms over a meme. And we were basically reading a meme, and it had something to do with men having, I don't know, some brotherhood, right? And we were thinking, like, why don't we have this? Why don't we have, like, a sisterhood for only welders? Because, you know, there's all trades and there's blue collars and all that. Well, I don't resonate with all the other trades. I am just a welder. I don't have nothing to do with electricity or anything else. I'm just strictly a welder. So we were like, well, why not do that? So that's the inception of the Welding Women Syndicate. And so we're basically looking for people, companies, and businesses to represent the diverse backgrounds that we continue to interview. And we have been looking for you. I didn't know we were looking for you until I saw, you know, the algorithm has really changed. So I'm blessed to have the social media reach. And I saw it and I went on it and I was like, oh my word, I really need to talk to her. And then when we have that conversation right now, dude, paths and cross and fate, here we go. So without any further ado, I want you guys to warmly welcome. This is Consuelo. She's the executive director of Latinas Welding Guild. And we're going to just basically start from the beginning. We want to know all about you. So how the heck did you get into welding?
So, so I was adopted from Guatemala when I was 3 years old. And I always had art as like my way to communicate, because I couldn't speak English. So basically all my childhood and growing up, I always used art. And then I ended up going to college, in Grand Rapids, Michigan at Kendall College of Art and Design. And I ended up graduating with my BFA in functional art. But so when I was going through school, we had to do a project where we needed to use a material we've never used before. And at the time I'd only used plywood and lumber and stuff like that. And so then I was like, well, maybe I could do metal or something. And so that was my first project ever. And I did this metal table. And I loved how much easier it was to work with versus wood. And so I basically fell in love then. And then once I graduated, wasn't really sure what I was going to do with my art degree. And because there's such a high demand for welders, I ended up qualifying for a grant to go back to school. So I went for an 18-week job training program for welding and fabricating.
Cool.
Because I had never, ever even considered welding or thought about welding really. And then I went to school, did it, fell in love. And then I was like, oh my gosh, like I was the only woman. So, you know, how do I find more women, or why aren't more women signing up? And then kind of just personal experience. I was like, oh my gosh, now I know why there aren't a lot of women in the field.
Right. So did you have any role models as you were going through your career, you know, through college or through your jobs? Who did you actually look up to? Were they in the trades, or did you have certain people that you went to?
So, you know, I didn't have a role model. Like I think I just kind of jumped in, to the welding thing, and I had to just kind of like stumble through a lot of it. Like I honestly did not have very good support when I was starting off. Like, you know, I was trying to figure out different ways of like, learning more about where to get steel. And like, I'm like, you know, what do I really want to do with welding, and finding out about the different careers. I'm like, I'm a creative at heart. So I'm like, you know, the thought of designing stuff to then get welded, or potentially even having like mass production of like pieces I do, that was also a thought. But, you know, when men hear of women going into welding because of art, then it's like, you know, that's already like, they took me down a peg.
You're not qualified. Let me guess. You're not qualified, or how silly of you.
Or like, oh, cool. So you're going to make like yard art. And
that's
like,
cute.
Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, exactly. So I was like, well, I'm like, I got to figure out something. But so I tried manufacturing for a little bit, and like, I was like, you know, I want to see how far I can go with the company. And then I kind of learned that there was like a salary cap. And then I was like, well, maybe I could get into like more of like the design stuff or the engineering. And that wasn't really an option. And I was like, okay, I just don't think this is the right fit for me. So I was like going on to a journey of like, okay, now what? And I was like, you know, I've always wanted to find a way to get back to Guatemala and connect with more of my heritage and my roots, and like just help support the country in some way. Didn't know how that was going to work. But then I had this idea of like how I wanted to start an all-women's welding school in Guatemala, but it's like starting a welding school in a different country. I don't even know how to do that here.
Like I'm already like in love with you. I don't know. I'm sure everybody on board. We already love you. Yeah.
So, but you know, it's like, it's interesting because I didn't have any support, really, on this journey. And even when I told people I want to do this all women's welding school in Guatemala, but I'm going to start here and figure out how to do it here, like people thought I was crazy, and they like were like, yeah, we don't want to help with that. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'm on my own again.
Right. You're not anymore. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about it then. Let's talk about the forming of the Latinas Welding Guild.
Yeah. So based on personal experience, my journey being alone, having to stumble through all of the just the ins and outs of learning more about the industry, you know, people were quick to judge. They didn't want to help me, even though I'm like, this is what I'm trying to do. Can you help me? And they would get annoyed with me because I'm asking questions, and I'm pestering them. But just seeing all the different elements, and even what I didn't get when I was in school, I'm like, you know, trying to basically just figure out as much information about, just the industry itself. Cause I'm like, you know, I think I'm just gonna have to go on my own. So how do I get situated for that? Fast forward. So I graduated from the vocational school in 2013. And so I basically kept talking about this idea I wanted to do. And I even went through a Latino leadership initiative. And so through that, we were supposed to come up with group ideas, and then groups would vote on what project they wanted to do. And I pitched this idea of like, I think we should do like a Latinas welding school or something. And my group mates were just like, we're going to go with the radio idea. And I'm like, okay, well, like shut down again.
Right.
And so then I ended up moving from Grand Rapids, Michigan to Indianapolis. Just, I think maybe a couple years after that. And So it was kind of like right place, right time. I ended up getting a job as a makerspace director in Indianapolis. And so through that job, I was able to have access to like shared tools and equipment, and so happened to have welders. So, I think just one day I was like, you know what, I keep talking about it. If I don't do it, it's been 4 years. I need to just do it. And so then I formed the nonprofit, jumped in. I was able to gather 5 of my Latina friends, and I was like, can you please help me pilot this idea that I don't even know if it's going to be a success. I don't even know if anyone's going to even care about it, or like people are just going to roll their eyes at the idea. And, I think just because a lot of people don't know a lot about welding, they're kind of like, why welding? Are there even jobs in welding? Like, oh, you mean with the torch? So,
oh my God. Right.
So, yeah.
It's crazy. Okay. So the fact that there was basically no knowledge on it. So that's kind of like the reasoning behind you forming it. Now, what about the community? Like once you have the ball rolling, was there support from the community?
Yeah. So my friends that were helping me, I'm like, explaining all this stuff, and they're like kind of just blindly following me and like going through it. And, we actually got really good momentum because we were doing events. I was partnering with people just even in Grand Rapids. So we made a trip to do a fundraiser. I was like, I got to figure out how to get the word out there and kind of just get feedback and try to even understand what is our actual goal. So are we coming together to weld for art? Are we coming together for certification? Like what is the outcome? Why would anyone want to join? And then I was kind of struggling with the certification part. But then it was like the more people I kept talking to, they were like, oh, well, is there certification? And I'm like, maybe. And so people kept getting hung up on certification. And then I was like, well, if you're going into business for yourself, certification doesn't necessarily make a difference whether you can have a business or not. So I struggled with that for a while. And then finally we just decided, we should focus on job placement, or just even entrepreneurship as well. So, I mean, I think people are fascinated by it at first, because here in Indianapolis, the further north you go, it's the richer white area. And so we did a fundraiser up there because I'm like, oh, maybe they'll want to donate and all that. So, but we kept having men who were like, well, can I do it? And we're like, no, it's the Latinas Welding Guild. And they're just like, why? And I'm like, because there needs to be a safe space for women to learn. And, obviously getting hung up on being excluded was a thing. So I'm just like, you know what, this is more proof that this is what's needed, because, the fact that I have to explain to these men that they have all the opportunities anyways. Like, absolutely. So you already know there's not a lot of women in the industry. You guys have the colleges, you have high school, you have all of these options, and women just don't have a safe place to learn. Like, you're getting sexually harassed, or guys are staring at you. I mean, just even my personal experience, I'm like, man, if the guild would have been around when I was going through school, I would have been so much happier. But at the same time, you have to go through those struggles and those things to, just really understand all the different layers that are there. Right. So.
I just felt that one deeply, unfortunately. All right. Mm-hmm. So talk to me a little bit about the programs that you have there. I see programs, public workshops, paid apprenticeships. How does it look for those programs? What's involved in each one?
So we have our women's welding courses. So they're 10-week courses. So that's once a week women come to the class. So it's not high stress of commitment or anything like that. We have a sliding scale for income-based scholarships. So depending on if they're employed or not, then, we'll work with them on what their class fees are. And that's where all the fundraising really comes into play. So our public workshops, those are ticketed events, they're project-based. And so, those are a little bit more geared to folks who might have more disposable income, so they can pay a higher price ticket and then the proceeds come back to help support the scholarships. And then with the fabrication projects, so you know, I'm busy running around doing all sorts of stuff, but like I'll go and try to connect with either arts organizations. I've worked with HOAs, some local schools. So, you know, they have these funds because art's kind of getting cut in schools. So they want to figure out some sort of, you know, alternative option to get those kids into some sort of creative project. So like I've worked with kids on doing like some design steps, and then I'll pitch an idea. And then the funds that we get paid for that custom work, I'm able to pay like a stipend or contract some of the women who, you know, are alumni or we feel are a good fit can go through and start working on those projects. So primarily for the last 3 years, well, 2.5 years, we were really focusing just on programming. And then the public workshops kind of like we were starting to get more frequent when we were hosting those. And then COVID hit. And funny enough, we actually got busier when COVID hit than we've ever been, which I was not expecting that. I was like, oh gosh, we're going to shut down. I don't know how I'm going to break it to everybody. So, but yeah, we've been so busy. It's kind of crazy. We have so many jobs, and that helps support also the programming and the scholarships, because some of the women that we're working with, you know, are single moms, or even if they have partners, they are like the ones that the sole caretaker, doesn't matter if they have a husband or, you know, they are financially, you know, in charge of taking care of kids and everything. So we're able to work with them. And then, you know, with the sliding scale, you know, the women who can pay more. And then that helps kind of offset what the other women are going through. So. Sure.
Now, what could we do to help you guys as far as getting the word out about the Latinas Welding Guild, or people what could we do to help you?
I mean, you know, the easy answer is always money. But, you know,
do you have a donation button straight on your website right now?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So, you know, as a nonprofit, you know, we do have fundraisers. Obviously, with COVID, it makes it a little bit more difficult, but we're doing basically like arts markets where we're able to have some of the women help build plant holders or you know, just kind of other products. So that helps us generate funds. But I think the main thing is that we're really trying to do is get our mission out there, like why it's important, because, you know, even though we've been around I mean, we're still really young, but it's like, I don't think people truly understand what it's like to be a woman going into this field. Yeah.
Very much underserved still in the industry, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I know it seems like social media bridges the gap, but truly when you've been in it yourself, you're basically going a solo adventure, you know, like you say, you know, there was no support, there's nobody. It's because really social media is not real. You know, it does help if you utilize it as a tool. But I mean, in my own 10 years, I think, what is it? I've worked with one, and I taught 2 up until my last class, and now I have 5 in my class. So that was crazy. The algorithm is changing, but it's not enough. You know what I mean? We're very much still underserved as women, and women of any Hispanic descent. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's no representation, period.
Yeah. And so like, even for us, I know this part of the struggle was like, well, what are we naming our group? So like when it came to like, okay, we're forming this 501c3, what's our name? And it was like, we're going back and forth because we're like, well, because I'm like, you know, there's nothing really just out there specifically for Latinas. We don't have anything to call our own. We don't have a group to call our own. I mean, everyone's kind of doing their own thing, but it's like, but really in the welding world, there's nothing that is like empowering or specifically trying to help support Latinas. And so, but it's like, but you know, I don't, our goal was to be inclusive. We want to support women, but our focus is Latinas. And then we have other women of color, and then we accept all women. So we're not trying to exclude anybody, but it's, you know, we just really want to help uplift the Latinas, because I feel like there's so many Latinas that are just quiet and don't want to get involved or don't want to cause waves. And I'm like, the thing is that people walk all over us because we don't speak up. So we have to. And you know what? just because we're Latinas doesn't mean that we're bad welders. I'm like, we're better welders than men. So, I mean, we have to be very proud of that and let people know that.
Well, and it's also the way that you're raised. You know what I mean? I know, like with mine, I wasn't even allowed to like speak unless spoken to, you know, like it was very subservient. So I completely get that, you know, and that's how a lot of women were raised that way, you know. Eliza and I had this very conversation, you know, we were just raised that way. So we were taught not to speak up, you know. And unfortunately, that's how marketing is for us too. Nobody represents.
Yeah. So. And it's, you know, like I feel very honored to be able to see the women basically applying for the program. And then I get to see them go through that whole process, and I get to learn more about them. Like, you know, well, why are you welding, or why do you want to learn how to weld? Have you known anyone that's ever welded? And all of them have basically been like, oh, my dad, my uncle, my brother, like my grandpa, everyone, all the males in their family. And a lot of them have been like, you know, I've always really wanted to weld, but my family told me I wasn't allowed to, or that I would fail, or I'd be really bad, or it's dirty, and like, you know, you're better off just getting an office job. And I'm like, man, for family and friends, that's just horrible. I can't even imagine what that does. But then, you know, they come in with that, they're nervous about taking the classes. And then by the time they're done, like the self-confidence that they have it's just like fantastic to see. Like they're speaking up for themselves. They, you know, they're not afraid to talk about what they want or what they need. Yeah. And like after that, they're volunteering to do all sorts of stuff. And I'm like, man, this is awesome.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I feel that one. So, I just saw Hooded Heroes right now. They say that they will help spread the word. And like all these women they're raised the same, you know, raised to serve our men. You're to be seen and not heard. And everybody's like, let's change this. Yeah, I mean, it's so weird how paths cross. Like, you know, the algorithm really does work. I believe it does. And it sucks because I think a lot of us are so busy trying to get the word out that sometimes we're not necessarily doing the networking. But if we use the algorithm and social media as a very powerful tool, we come across people like you. And trust me, I am so honored to hear this story because it's definitely needed. You know, it's definitely a lot of conversation that myself and a lot of the sisters right now have had, because women are certainly underrepresented in the industry, and any women of color all day, every day, you just don't see it. You know what I mean? So unfortunately, if you don't fit a certain stereotype, you don't necessarily get the kudos that you would hope for, no matter how qualified you are. So you having this and having it, the name Latina in just your bio period, we all resonate with you. Like, we completely love you for this. So it seems, unfortunately, and I don't want to I'm not going to try to leave anybody out, but very much underrepresented. So, and I think it's a huge demographic that's just not touched on, that people could be introduced into welding via art even. You know, I just had this conversation about a woman, and she's basically discounting the fact of introduction to welding via art. I mean, I know some very powerful artists, and to actually discount them breaks my heart, because I imagine most of them are a better welder than this person. And it was another woman, unfortunately. So that's the hard part. So have you had any pushback from women as far as the Latinas Welding Guild? I told you I was going to push the envelope.
Not, you know,
curious because we have a very parallel dimension here. So we have very similar paths. So I'm just curious, how everything has been well received, because community, they're like, screw you. Women, they're like, screw you. But everybody's preaching the same thing. So just curious.
Yeah. So, not really. Well, I don't know. Like, we haven't had women be like, oh, why are you doing that? But I mean, you know, I think that's kind of where the Latinas, the name, some women are like, well, I'm not Latina, so I can't do it. I'm like, we're helping all women. But obviously we have to be selective because we only have limited seats. And so I think when we're first starting, you know, we're kind of just accepting anybody who applied, because we're like, you know, we really need to get the program running and everything. And so, but there was an attitude that we were getting from some white women that I think was like, had a negative impact, I think, for the women, for my friends that were helping me, but also because I was forming, you know, I had formed a board, also kind of a little like, I don't know, it put like a bad taste in everyone's mouth. Just because like it seemed more like it was just for fun. Like they weren't taking it seriously or understanding that, you know, you're taking a spot from someone who could potentially go and get a welding career. And you know, it was really hard for me to watch, but it's also like, well, okay, so we don't really have a whole set of like a matrix or you know, standards quite yet, because we don't even really know what we're doing. Right. But that took some time. And, you know, I think because I had to put my foot down and be like, you know, we really have, this is a need-based program. We can't just accept anybody. And like, and then now even we're looking at income. So if you make more than like, you know, the 80% of the annual income here, then, you know, you're going to have to pay full price. There's no helping with you with a scholarship or anything, you know, like, you know, and really trying to let
that's an entitlement issue, you know, come on now, you know, like.
Exactly. And so then even like asking the questions, well, what is it that you want to do with welding? And I'm like, you know, it's okay if you don't know, because obviously if this is your first time, you might not know right off the bat, but just an idea. And like, you know, so I've even had to filter through like what their actual like outcome or their goal is. So for some women who are like, oh, I just want to make sculptures, I'm like, okay. Unfortunately, like job placement and entrepreneurship, like and just even looking at what entrepreneurship, what makes sense to have in the classes too. You know, we've had to really filter through that. And, so, I mean, I think we're at a good point now. Like we have a good system in place, and, you know, I even have some of the other women who've gone through programming help. Because it's like, you know what we're looking for. You've been in the classes, you know what kind of, you know, what we're expecting from everybody. So it's been great. So
learning process all the way, I imagine.
Oh yeah. Growing pains.
Oh yeah, I imagine. Now the people that you chose for your board, were they welders, or did they have any knowledge on it? Or are you just like, sister, you're going to learn, come on?
So I was strategic about the board, just based on like kind of doing some research and kind of like being able to see what traditional boards look like. So luckily, because of the makerspace job, I was able to connect with a few of the our board members now. So we got an attorney, which she's great. She helped us file our entity and like even talk through what entity even made sense. And so then, you know, she's helping with contracts, and like even now when we're having classes, you know, liability forms and all of that. We had an accountant, some of my friends at work within the school system who work primarily with Latino families. We've had marketing, art organizations to kind of help with like navigating some of the, you know, possibilities or opportunities out there for us. I'm totally blanking. I'm sure I forgot some stuff. And just like, I think some nonprofit focused students in college too. But I mean, it's like I'm constantly like trying to think like, okay, well, you know, it makes sense to have this kind of person, but right now we have an all woman board except for one male who's our programs director, and I'm like been hesitant, like, do I want men on the board? But it's like what kind of sucks is that there's not a lot of women with welding experience or knowledge that I could put on the board. Like, I mean, it's very hard for me to find other women here to add to the board. So I'm like, well, I know some people at the union, so just even thinking, well, like maybe I need to have one from the vocational school here, from a union, maybe from someone that works for the city. So yeah, you know, I think we just unfortunately have to go those routes because we just don't have the women here that have the experience or are working there or even want to. So,
well, it sounds like you've taken a decent path, you know, trying to figure out like navigating who's in charge of what. Just go to the best of their abilities and then bring them on in. That makes sense. And I actually was going to ask you about the forming of the nonprofit. So we're talking a little bit about basically navigating that interesting journey. So that's part of it, is creating your board. What else entailed with that?
So, you know, honestly, I never imagined having a nonprofit, and even when I formed it, I had no idea what I was getting into. Right. Like the board, you know, it's like you constantly have to herd cats. So, you know, just trying to find the right board members, you know, trying to figure out, well, what kind of time commitment, you know, can I really ask of them if it's volunteer? Have they been on a board before? If they haven't, then, you know, is that something that we want to kind of work with them on? And then I even tried to get advice from other people that I knew were sitting on boards. And just, you know, it's like I try to get as much information or feedback from other people here. And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't make sense for us. Yeah, that doesn't make sense for us. And then just even thinking about, like, do you want a working board, or do you just want a board that just basically comes to meetings and that's it? And I'm like, I don't know. I guess I want a working board. And so now I've actually this year I've had to really, really think hard about it. And I'm like, you know what? I think I need to have board members who are completely active. I can't have board members that are showing up sporadically and aren't contributing. It's like, I can't do this by myself. I need people that are on the ground who can help me turn in grants, who can help me keep track of schedules for, you know, potential like, you know, foundations or other, like, you know, groups that could potentially even be a sponsor. But even then goes back to, like, you know, how much knowledge do some of the board members have of the other companies in the industry, or what might be a good company to go to who might have a special fund that supports manufacturing or welding or anything like that. So it's a lot, that's for sure.
Oh, look at Mr. G's workshop. I teach in a 99% Latin neighborhood, a town called West New York and West Jersey. He's going to share your social media with them.
Oh, awesome.
I always encourage girls to take up welding. I love to hear that. You do not hear that. No. Tiff is great. Get her on board. Tiff is doing the same thing, Missy. No, I will help with social media and I will do as much as possible, but we're doing the same exact thing. Like, I don't sleep right now. Yeah, that's why I'm asking, like, holy moly, like, we have our hands full right now.
Constantly.
That's what Lisa's saying. Building a nonprofit is no joke.
It's not. It really isn't.
I don't take any bit of joke. You know, I think I'm already 10 years invested in it. I'm pretty sure this is not a joking situation for me. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have stayed in it that long. Yeah,
you got your board, your bylaws, your policies, your committees. Do you have committees? Fundraising, talking to funders, sponsors. Yeah, it's fun. And then when it comes to, like, taxes and stuff too, making sure that you got a good number of people on your board. And then another thing is that when it comes to funding, like a foundation, they will judge your nonprofit based on who's on your board. So if they look at your board and they're like, why is this person on your board? Like, what experience would they potentially have that makes sense for your nonprofit? Like, that could even kill your chances of potentially getting support, which I had, I think it was someone from a foundation. It was like right after we formed, they basically were like, just letting you know, but this is how it typically goes. And I'm like, oh. So I guess I will wait a little bit.
Well, aside from the politics, is it worth it?
I mean, we haven't even talked about all the politics. I mean, nonprofit world, it's cutthroat, especially with COVID happening. You know, one of the most frustrating things is that I know that I'm putting in, 80 to 100 hours of work every single week. And, so traditional nonprofits that have like the traditional boards, they just keep getting funding because they're a safe group that people know they can give money to and they know they're going to use it. Now, do they use it for programming? Not always, but they still get those opportunities. And then I think being a minority and a woman running a nonprofit, it makes it even harder because, you know, they're kind of like, well, why should we support welding? Like, you know, we're not an arts group, but, you know, you're in the manufacturing world. Why would any foundation want to support that? But now it's like with, I think, the political climate of everything, now all of a sudden people are like, oh, I want to help you. You're minority and woman and you're doing all these things. And I'm like, okay, whatever. When's the check?
Just give me your money.
Just kidding. Yeah, exactly.
We got you.
But you know, it's frustrating because you see all these groups that, and I mean, I guess the only way I can say it is like, I feel like there's nonprofits who don't do all that much work. And it's like, what is their actual, you know, what kind of impact are they even making? I feel like they're just writing things and saying that they're doing things and then they still get funding when I'm like, hey, I'm actually like, I can show you what I'm doing. Exactly. So, and then when COVID hit, you know, we didn't qualify for any of the COVID relief funds or any of the payroll because we don't have payroll because we're so little. And so, you know, I was like, well, you know, I've never been able to depend on grants or funding anyways. So it doesn't really affect me a whole lot. But then, you know, thinking, well, like, okay, so what are we supposed to do for funds? Because we're still going to keep classes going. I'm like, you know what? I'm so sick and tired of having to have foundations be like, well, your budget's not big enough for us to support. Oh, and then even earlier when I was telling you like how someone from a foundation told me that, oh, well, you know, there's these city funded programs and these groups who have federal funds. So, you know, you could get those funds, but you have to play nice with all these groups. And I'm like, why? Like they're all doing the same exact thing. Why do I have to play nice with them? Like they're all doing the same thing. They're not actually specifically targeting or working with a certain audience. So that to me, I'm like, you know what, if I have to suck it up and pretend to be like friends with a group that I don't like, I know what they're doing. I know the quality of work, then, you know, whatever, it's not worth it. And on top of that, some of the women that we're working with may or may not be undocumented. So obviously federal funds will make 0 cents for the programming and then limits who we can work with and like all of that. So, and then, you know, some of the requirements were that our programming would have to be open to the public. So, you know, if a white man came to our group and was like, hey, I want to take welding, then we would have to let them in. And I'm like, no, I don't want to play that game because there's already like a dozen groups doing the exact same program. Why would that make a difference if you have me on your roster? Like it wouldn't.
See, so. I'm not the only one. Hold that integrity. It pays off. Just stand your ground, man. You know?
Yeah.
Policies are not written for what you're doing right now. You know, there's nothing for you. It's not written yet, but you can be in a position to write it one day.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, and one of my board members, she actually was like, you know, this is a blessing in disguise because private funders, we can't get funding because these are the reasons. So this is building our case even more for private founders or foundations to now fund this type of initiative because now they know that there's not a lot of support out there. So.
Golly. Now, you were talking about COVID. How did COVID end up being like your best year? A lot of people, do not sell out. Stick to your guns, dude.
Exactly.
Like I'm telling you, we're going to try to help and do whatever we can to help you get the name out, get money to you. Like, I think we found it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'm just saying, like, it's no different in California. It translates all over the world. You know what I mean? But we have not found somebody doing something specific niche wise. You know what I mean? So we can work together. So this is, like I'm saying, it's a very huge blessing in disguise because we need it here too, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I can't remember what you just asked me.
Me neither. Oh, COVID. We already knew that was going to happen. So, So how did that read as far as COVID? Like, what made it the best? What did you do differently? What was the difference in it? Because everybody else had like, you know, a lot of people have said that it was actually their best year, strangely. So how did that translate for you?
So at the time, I so my position running the makerspace was absorbed. So I didn't have that job. And that was like August 2019. Oh my gosh, time. But yeah, 2019. And so then that was kind of the kick in the butt to be like, okay, I need to do this full time. If this organization isn't going to go anywhere, I have to be full time.
Right.
So, you know, so we ended up moving out of the makerspace, and we actually went to a local nearby high school, which I'm currently teaching at now. But so we went to the high school, and we're like, okay, 2020 is going to be the year that we have 45 women going through our program by the end of the year, meaning 45 women are going to get certified. And so we were really excited. We were geared up. We got into the space. We could have larger scale or larger size classes. So we had the plan. We're like, oh, we're going to do all these public workshops. And then like about midway through our spring semester, COVID hit, and we had to stop classes. And so we're like, great. So now we can't do anything in that space anymore. So we frantically were trying to find an alternative space. But obviously with COVID, it was kind of like, I have no idea where we're going to go. Right. And so we got lucky enough because there was a friend of mine who referred me to his friend who had like a maybe 1,200 square foot warehouse space. And so he was kind enough to let us just kind of mark out a small, like maybe 300 square foot area, and we could finish our classes there. So we basically started from scratch because we didn't have any equipment at that point. So I was like, okay, I think I might have to personally invest in equipment. So I started doing that kind of slowly. And then I was like, you know, maybe this COVID thing is not that bad because it actually gives me time to like strategically think about, okay, when we do open back up, then what? Because I'm like, if we open back up, I'm going to have to basically just start running everything very fast. And then I invested in a forge. And so I was like, oh, you know, maybe I'll look at different processes instead of always just welding. And so I kind of just made do and had some of the women help with some other steel projects. And then everything opened back up, and we're able to gather, and we finished the classes. We had 12 women get certified, which was really exciting because I'm like, yeah, come on, like at least someone acknowledge the fact that like, even though we're really little, we were still able to pull it out. Right. And then we had some projects that we were supposed to do, but got delayed because of COVID. And all of a sudden we just had project after project after project. And basically our whole summer was just filled with fabrication projects. And then luckily for us, we had a reporter from IndyStar, who's a sister company of USA Today, do an article on us. And so then that really put our name in front of a lot of people. And so then we started getting more people contacting us and more people donating to us. And so that really just like was a good boost. And then now, like I told you earlier, like we just moved into our very own space on Monday. Mm-hmm. And so we have been busy organizing things, and we've just had a lot of good luck. So one of the partnerships that the Makerspace had before I left was with Purdue. So I will show you the space if you want.
Yes, I want to say I've been waiting to get this introduction. So that's where you're at right now, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to get a little bit of a tour of what's going on here.
Yeah, and I'll explain kind of like what our plan is, because this is exactly what we needed to basically take it a step further, for people to take us seriously and be like, they're unstoppable. Look, we're still in a pandemic, and look, now we have our own space, and we have some very good equipment.
All right, let's see what you got.
Okay, so I'll start from the front. Hang on.
Okay. Okay.
So Purdue has all this technical equipment, which now we are basically running. So we have straight ahead, you'll see a CNC and a plasma. I'm just going to do a quick view, and then I'll walk you through. So we have some 3D printers right there. I just hung some of that graffiti earlier, like I said. And then we have a DTG printer, so digital to garment. So, and this is actually where I've printed our guild T-shirts for fundraising. So So we've now inherited all of this, and now we're able to create programming over it. And for the first time ever, we actually have a place we can have our classroom, and that's my husband over there. But
Hi,
but
guys.
but we actually have space to watch videos, do book work,
Yeah.
and have a separate space from the welding area. So our 3D printers, we're going to do like maybe some rapid prototyping.
Cool.
We got our 5x10 CNC machine. So now we can actually write programming and really have this space be a cultural collaborative space. Our plasma cutter right there, so a 4x8.
Badass.
And so we're going to work on costs and working with other Latino or minority-owned businesses, help incubate the women that are in our program. So you can see we have some of our welding booths. So
Right.
we're going to get electrical and get some other stuff situated. So don't mind the mess. We're still unpacking.
Yeah,
And
you just moved in. Like, this is just like days ago.
Yeah. So we'll have our booths over there. So when women come into class, and we actually moved during our spring semester. So some of the women came in and helped us move. And then we started class back up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So we have some bags of steel. We're actually going to put a huge fabrication, like a 4x10 fabrication table here with holes so we can do clamps, have a good clamping area. And then we have a dock door. So if we get deliveries, we can take them there. And then put material so we can start processing materials because we did not have enough room before. And that's basically the space, and we got our flags. And so we're super excited about making it our own and, just kind of seeing what happens. So.
Oh my God. I am so stoked for you, dude. That is an amazing space. Like, I'm so proud of you guys. Like, I cannot tell you. Ugh. You're going to start making me cry again. Like, that's awesome. Like, who does that during COVID? You know what I mean? Like, it's your spot. You did it. I'm so proud of you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that was something that I think people don't realize, that it's about maintaining relationships. Like, I would have not gotten all of this equipment if I did not maintain a relationship from the makerspace. And that to me, I love networking, and I do truly appreciate finding those genuine people who want to help and who believe in what I'm doing. And, the professor that I'm working with at Purdue, he was like, I trust you. I know that you'll use the equipment and you'll put it to good use. And I'm like, you have no idea that all of the women that we have as a part of our group have never ever seen this in their like real life, like maybe on like a picture or something. But so I can't wait. A lot of them I think are like, oh my gosh, that's going to be overwhelming. But I'm excited because some of our bilingual students are going to help write some curriculum and write instructions for things. So now it's like we can truly have like, a bilingual like collaborative space.
Yes. It's so amazing, dude. I'm so happy for you. Like, game changer. Like, I did not even expect all that. I honestly did not. Like, I didn't know, aside from what I've been looking at your website and your page. So, dude, I'm so proud of you. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
And I can't wait because I know that there are going to be some men that are going to be like, that's not fair. Why can't I like, get access? And I'm like, well, you can apply. We'll look at your application.
Right. Well, I mean, you never know what the future holds, but right now,
exactly,
the need is for the women and the women Latinas. So
yeah,
congratulations
exactly.
on that. I love that.
Yeah, thank you.
See, game changing. That's from Letty. I'm trying to look at comments, but I'm not. I'm just listening to you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm like completely infatuated right now. I don't even know what to ask at this point. I'm just like so impressed with the space. And this is just the inception. So imagine when it's like fully running. So
we're hoping April 1st. Yeah.
You'll do it. I have faith in you. Complete faith. Oh my God. So what could we do right now I know we're talking about donation, but to get like do you have a certain process to applying to your class? Is there a certain days you can get in? Do you have it? How does it work to getting in the class, and how could we help spread the word for you?
So, you know, like I have so many different ideas that I want to basically branch off into. I mean, I would like to be able to like do all metal, all everything, get into a ton of markets. And I know that this space will help us get there.
Yes.
So, you know, like working with jewelers and blacksmiths and metalsmiths and all of that. I mean, I told you I got a forge, so now we can start doing some of that. But
Yes.
so, you know, once we get a little bit further along, we'll have more classes running frequently. So for the women that we're looking for, the candidates, you know, we're looking for women who may or may not be undocumented, who, you know, and the nice thing about our program that I've set it up is that there's no prerequisites, because unfortunately, I think a lot of women who've, you know, maybe been teen moms have had to drop out of school and they don't have the education to go to a local like vocational school or college, right, or anything like that. So, you know, we're looking at, you know, how much education do they have? What kind of background? You know, did they already like go through college? Do they have certifications anywhere? What do they know about welding? Are they employed or not employed? So, you know, we're looking at all of these different things, but really it's like, we want them to, for the women that really want to be in it, they're looking for a career change and to become financially independent. So that's who we're looking for. And
now, are you traveling to like local high schools and colleges to get the word out about the guild?
So with COVID, obviously.
I know COVID. Oh, I know. But there's still ways to do it as far as Zoom, like making friends with the teachers and you know, the directors of the programs. That's how I've been doing it.
So that's another kind of interesting
Don't go
subject.
into it. You don't want to.
No. So it's been interesting because there are a lot of unions here, and there's Ivy Tech here in Indiana. I think they're all over, but we have Ivy Techs here. And depending on the Ivy Tech, they will support me or they won't. So I've had an Ivy Tech in Lafayette, where Purdue is. The dean there said that they would give us the curriculum so then we could have our students, you know, actually gain some credit while they're going through our program. And then, you know, obviously that helps them get into school. But the Ivy Tech here in Indianapolis does not give me that same support. No matter how many times I've tried to ask and like, you know, want support. So
the lack of support, what is it that you don't fit a demographic that they want, or what's the issue? Do you know, or you're not sure?
I mean, I think it's because he's a white male, doesn't want to be bothered or doesn't want to do it. Essentially, I think it might be as simple as that. He just doesn't want to. And so, you know, that's been kind of like weird. And other people have asked like, oh, are you working with Ivy Tech? And I'm like, not the one here. But even with the unions, that's also been kind of an interesting just situation. Like, so the one union that has actually been supportive and has made lots of effort to help support us has been the Carpenters Union. Oh, so yeah, the sheet steel union, the other the pipe fitters union, like not so much. A group of us went to one of their like open thing, which is like an orientation night or something. And that experience, I was like, you know, why am I working so hard to try to go and meet these unions when it doesn't even seem like they really care if I'm there or not? And I'm like, you're saying how you're looking for women, but then when women come to your space, then, you know, you're like, I don't really care. And I'm like, I'm literally coming to you. You're looking for women. We're women. We're looking for options. We're looking for outlets, and you don't want to like talk to us or anything. So it was just kind of like, kind of ridiculous to me. But Carpenters Union.
Is there that'll just ask us right now? Is there someone that we could email on your behalf if we all did it in your name? Like, who could we email? We're a group of women paying attention, so who could we contact, you know, to gain momentum and the demand for you?
Yeah. Well, you know, the orientation that we went to, like, I mean, it was all white guys, so it was kind of uncomfortable for us because, you know, there were like four of us Latinas there, and we're just like, and then the women that were there were just like, oh yeah, we're looking for chicks and stuff. And I'm like,
I'm a chick, you know, like, God, I'm here.
well, it's like, you know, but it was like the attitude that the women had about other women was just kind of like, you're giving reasons for those men to not treat us with respect and calling us chicks and girls and, you know, all these things. So, you know, so a friend of mine, I was basically venting about, like, you know, I've tried to get a hold of this union, that union, this union. And I'm like, the only union that's ever been nice to me and has like actually followed up with me and who comes to like meetings and invites me to different things has been my friend from the Carpenters Union. So he's been a huge ally, and like he's come to our classes because before COVID hit, we would have people from the Carpenters Union, from the Civil Rights group here, from the Labor Trafficking Union come in and talk about what services they offer. And then we would also do tours of like metal supply shops and other fabrication shops. Obviously COVID changed all that, but
right.
But, you know, he was always showing up, and but my friend was like, you know, if these groups of like either unions or whatever groups, welding groups, can't see or appreciate what you're doing, and even when you're going to their space, they don't respect you, right, then why keep trying? He's like, if anything, you want those groups who keep claiming they want more women involved should be coming to your space, talking to you in your environment and learning how to behave with you guys and not the other way around.
Yeah.
He's like, because if you keep chasing them and keep thinking that one day they're going to wake up and realize, oh my God, there's a woman here and she's leading women welders. Like, he's like, you're going to be frustrated and you're never going to be happy because they're never going to like give you that type of respect. And so I'm just been like, after he said that, a light bulb clicked, and I'm like, you know what? You're right. If these men who keep claiming that they have inclusive programs and that, you know, they have sisterhoods and they're really looking for women and really want to help support women, if they can't see where I'm coming from, then what's the point?
You don't even want them to be there. So
no, I don't need their support. They haven't been giving it anyway, so it's not like I'm losing anything by not having them there.
Right.
So
no, you're right. Mr. G's workshop, he says the guidance counselors don't steer the girls towards welding. He's the one that has to go down to the guidance office to recruit. Mm-hmm. So you may want to talk to the guidance counselors in the high schools. That's ridiculous. Like, and it goes back to what you just said. They're asking for women, but yet they don't actively seek them out. You know, like, yeah. How are you even supposed to know that they're asking for women? Like, are you even marketing it that way? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. No, you're just saying that because it makes you look good.
Exactly. Well, you know, and then I've been fortunate enough because, you know, it's like I'm pretty active. I'm active. So like, you know, I've gotten asked to talk to like elementary school kids, middle school kids, high school kids about, well, like for Latino groups, they're like, you know, it's really important that, you know, our students see Latinas, like women are actually, you know, out there doing maybe non-traditional jobs. And then being able to talk to other high schools, you know, because they hit the same problem. Like we want to encourage more of our female students to actually try to go into the welding program.
Right.
And so, you know, it's like, well, I'm always happy to talk. Hopefully it does something, and hopefully, you know, guidance counselors or whoever at the school really help them get into those classes. And even though, and like even at my school, you know, I think like, now that they see there's a woman instructor, like I think more female students are like, oh, okay, I could go to her class. Like I want to be in her class versus like his class.
I have
and all of that.
No, because it translates different when a woman teaches. You know, I've had women actively seek me out because their college in, you know, the counties over here, she said that they're just not welcoming to women. They're jerks, you know. And I'm not necessarily the nicest person, but like as women, no, it's true. I mean, you can't be just the nicest person. I do it based on, you know, your qualifications and your work and your determination. You know what I mean? I'm not just gonna kiss anybody's ass, because why give anybody false hope? But I've had women actively seek out, oh, there's a women instructor there, let me try that out, because they're not marketing for women, and they just have the male instructors, which is great. They're all just as qualified, but are they qualified to teach to women? No, they're not. Nobody teaches that. I'm a woman. I know how to treat other women. You know, no, I'm not nice, and you know what I mean? It's just, it translates differently as a woman, and women are naturally, we're nurturers. You know what I mean? We, in this industry, we know what it feels like to go through, because we've walked the walk. You know what I mean? And the majority of the women are not, you know, unfortunate. They're not all jerks, you know. You do come across that, unfortunately, but it is what it is. We don't have to pay attention to them. We just block them. But yeah, I mean, it is different, you know. Like, we've had to walk the walk, so it does translate differently when a woman teaches other women, even men. So.
Well, it's been interesting. So in my high school classes, so like our high school is basically a blend of students from all over the city, because we've unfortunately had some schools shut down. And so it's been even interesting being a woman teaching a bunch of teenage boys.
I bet.
And so, you know, I think, like, you know, I got some warning from other teachers, like, oh, they're gonna be disrespectful, you can't let them do that. And it's like, none of them have been disrespectful to me. They call me ma'am, and I'm like, you don't have to call me ma'am. And so, like, but like, they're respectful. And like, you know, at the beginning of the year, I asked them, like, who's someone in your family that, you know, you really, really admire and that you're like super close to? And a lot of the students said their moms. And so I think that's where they really, like, you know, I'm not going to disrespect you, but I'm also very, like, I was very clear with them, like, you know, I will be 100% respectful of you if you're respectful to me. So it's like, we're adults. We can communicate, we can talk, all of that. And so then even, like, I've noticed, like, you know, some of the Latino students I have, they kind of have the machismo, and I'm just like, no, I can't have that. So, you know, so it's been interesting. It's definitely been interesting to see how, like, different students will kind of react to me. And I think, like, over time, you know, a lot of my students have been opening up a lot to me, which has made me feel really good. And, you know, I think that, like, they might see, you can't always judge a book by its cover, because I'm 5 foot tall, and they're probably like, she's a welder. And then it's like, you know, I'm doing demos for them, and they're like, oh my gosh, like,
your
height know what you're doing.
Nothing to do with your ability. You know? Like, I don't know where they come up with this crap. Like,
I don't know either.
No, well, it's interesting. I just got this question from Lisa. She said she'd love to hear about recommendations for dealing with the macho students in class. Don't want to disrespect them. What do you do? Yeah,
so I mean, I'll have some students who are like, oh, I already know how to do that. Or they assume that they're going to be amazing welders just off of the first time. And then when they're not, I'm like, you know, it takes practice. I'm like, and like, I have to tell them, like, you know, there's never been one person in the history of welding that I bet has gotten that perfect weld the first time they ever picked up a welding gun.
Right.
And so, yeah. And like, and so for some of those kids who are like, oh, I know what I'm doing, I don't need blah, 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 like, they know what they're doing. So I'm like, okay, well, why don't you do a demo for the class then?
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
I'll have a competition with them. Like, all right, put your money where your mouth is. Let's do this. You can weld better than me, then I'll let you have that attitude. But until then,
exactly.
Yeah. You have to step up. Like, all right, you're cool, you're great. Let's do this. Let's do it one-handed, left-handed too. Come on, bring it. You know what I mean? Like, why not? Like, they want to play the game, but you have to. All right, kids these days, it's very interesting. I have only a few because I teach college level, but I do have 16 and 17-year-olds that come in, very interesting attitudes, and I don't put up with it. You know what I mean? I'm like, let's go. Put your money where your mouth is, dude. Let's go.
Yeah, $5 says you can't do it. No, I'm just kidding.
Right. Who's betting?
Yeah.
For real, dude. I love that. Do a demo for the class. Oh my God, my next class is in trouble.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Love it. That's awesome, dude. All right, well, we're actually rounding out. We're gonna have to do another one because we're already going over time, dude. I have so much more I need to ask you. I knew this was gonna happen. Okay, so I asked this to everybody. What's some advice we can give the 15-year-old you for someone who is going to be going into welding? What would you tell yourself if you can go back?
I would say don't give up, or don't listen, or use what people are telling you to not do as fuel to keep going. So
yes, absolutely, dude. I appreciate that. Yeah, I do the same thing. You have to, because you're needed. Obviously you're needed, because you're definitely serving up a community that's very much underrepresented, and so we all appreciate that. So we'll go back and, like, I know you're so busy right now, but I'm gonna have you tell me, you know, in message, email, text, whatever you need, whatever you have, your time will accommodate. Let me know how we can help you, and we'll set up a campaign for you just to get the word out, get money to you, to get, I don't know, interviews, whatever the heck you need. Like, we'll tag the president. No, maybe not the president, but
yeah. Well, not the previous president. Yeah.
Never mind. But you know what I mean? Like, we'll go out of our way to do what we can for you. So I appreciate you. And man, I'm so glad our paths crossed. And I appreciate everything that you're doing right now. And I hope we can revisit this at least in 3 months, just to see you settled and to see how it's translating with the community and if we've actually helped you. You know?
Yeah, no, I feel so welcomed, even though I don't know anybody who's on the call.
We're welders, dude. We're welders, and we're welders who want to be represented. So that's all you need to do, and we're here to help you. Look, and there's so many other people that are not. They're not women. They're just people that want to help. So that's really very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Well, I appreciate it.
Anytime, and we will talk to you soon. But let me know in message or whenever, so we can start that. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Consuelo.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye.